The Atelier games have been around for a very long time, and they span a multitude of titles. And from an outsider's perspective looking in, it can be a little intimidating. But recently, I decided to take the plunge and play my very first Atelier game. And so today, I'd like to give my early impressions on that game. Now, which Atelier did I start and why? Well, apparently I chose a very unorthodox one to start with, but hey, I guess that'll make for a better video, maybe? But my first Atelier is Lydie Suelle, The Alchemists and the Mysterious Paintings. Ooh. Little bit of a backstory here. I always knew of the Atelier series. Back in the day of the PS3 360 era, when I was just a wee lad in high school, I would occasionally see the Atelier games on the shelf of my local GameStop. I believe it was either it was Atelier Arland and Aisha, I think. Do not quote me on that. I'm still very unfamiliar with this series. So I had always seen them, and they always had these really cute anime girls on the cover. And at one time I was like, okay, what are these? I keep seeing these. What is it? And I turned it over. I read the little synopsis on the back, and I was like, okay, so this seems like just kind of a very chill, like, resource gathering kind of game, and you just gather materials and make stuff in a cauldron. But I never really dove into it beyond that. But it was always a series that I had a passing level of interest in. I would still keep my eye on them periodically and consider it, but never jump in. And so why did I choose to jump in after so long? Well, to keep a long story short, I had gone to a GameStop one day a couple years ago, and I saw this game on the shelf, Lydie Suelle, and it was like $15. And it was on the Switch. At the time, I was very much into the Switch. I still am now, but I was like super into the Switch back then. And so I was like, you know what? Why not? Give it a shot, see what it's about. And so I just bought it. Didn't look into it. Didn't see if it was a part of any series, which I know now it's a part of the Mysterious trilogy. And it's the final game in the trilogy, so yeah. I really chose a winner, didn't I? But I bought the game, and I never played it. It just kinda sat in my backlog, and I would periodically look at it and consider it. And so what was the ultimate decider in me randomly deciding to jump in now of all times? Well, outside of a couple of other YouTubers that I know who are massive fans of this series, and their interest in the series causing my interest to rise, there are a couple of people who I'm close friends with now that are also big fans of the series and have talked about it on occasion. So the series has been more in my brain recently, and the straw that broke Theoretical Camel's back was actually the Nintendo Direct where Atelier Yumiya was announced. And the funny thing was, I remember when I saw that trailer, like halfway through, I was like, well, this looks like an Atelier game. Just based off of the character models. Hey, you gotta give credit where credit's due. Some of the Atelier games might not look the best in terms of graphics or backgrounds and details, but the character models, that's all that matters, right? As long as the characters look good and the gameplay is good, it don't matter what anything else looks like. Gust has their priorities in check. But I recognized it as an Atelier game. And, well, also, hearing Kiryu as that big dragon dude, I was like, whoa. And it just caught my attention. And they were changing the gameplay style to be more action instead of turn-based, which even at the time, I had no idea what the gameplay of Atelier even was, or even if it had gameplay. But that was what happened. That concoction of YouTubers, friends, and the reveal of Atelier Yumiya just finally stewed in that cauldron long enough to pop out, hey Cyrus, come play this game. Alright, sure. And so, after so long, I finally took the game off my shelf, put it in my Switch, and I've been playing it. And now we're down to the important question. What do I think of it? Well, let's break things down, shall we? As far as the plot itself, you play as the twin sisters Lydie and Suelle, living in their small alchemy atelier, which, until I played this game, I actually had no idea what an atelier was. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's just like a tiny little store. Alright, cool. That's good to know. But they live there with their father. Dear old daddy, who's a little bit of a ditz, and is definitely not hiding any deep, dark secrets from his daughters. Nope, definitely not. Definitely doesn't remind me of another father who also hid secrets from his kids, and was also kind of a doofus. But the ultimate plot of this game is that the two twins want to become the best atelier in the kingdom. And, well, at the start, you can tell they have a long way to go. But I gotta say, my initial impressions right off the bat was very positive. The twins have a lot of charm in them. I love the way that the character models look, the detailing on their outfits and everything, from the little expressions and animations that they do. And yeah, the actual characters themselves as they like walk around and stuff is pretty stiff. To be fair, it's like this is a PS3 era game, and these games are definitely on the more budget aspect of things. But I didn't play this game for like smooth animations and high quality graphics and stuff, so I'm not really expecting that from this. But we find out that the father's been doing some painting down in his basement, and that the twins are not allowed down there. And well, what do? Naturally, we sneak down there and take a look at things ourselves, and he's actually kind of pretty good. But then suddenly we get sucked into one of the paintings, and we're in this kind of almost like dream-like landscape. And we're walking around exploring. They see a woman who looks kind of like their deceased mother, so they decide to follow her. And after being unable to find her, they eventually make their way out of the painting, where the father is right there to scold them, and he locks up the basement and they're not allowed back in, which then begins the story proper as we make our way to the castle in order to sign up for the certification exam to become officially certified alchemists in the kingdom. And so far, the story does seem very low stakes, and I know looks can be deceiving, so I wonder if there's going to be any kind of like crazy bombshell reveal, or if the story will just remain very lighthearted in tone throughout the whole thing. Like, I don't know, the stuff with the paintings, it's like it could reveal, oh, the entire world that they're currently in is a painting, and the actual world outside is a wasteland and destroyed, and it's a post-apocalyptic hellscape. I don't think it's gonna go that far, but I definitely feel like they'll pull on the heartstrings a little bit, for sure, especially with the whole mother thing. Now, whether the dad is responsible for putting the mom in the painting, and she's not actually dead, or maybe through her passing and his grief, he made a painting of her and inadvertently came to life by using the mystical paintbrushes, whatever they're called, and he did so by complete accident. Who knows? But yeah, the story so far, I'm enjoying it. Slowly climbing through the ranks by completing all these quests, going into these different mysterious paintings, which act as your dungeons in this game, is really cool. As of right now, I'm a little bit into chapter 4, so I just unlocked the Ice Cavern painting. And I gotta say, the paintings themselves definitely feel like they're going to be the highlights as far as dungeons go, because the overworld dungeons, the places where you explore outside of the town, are just kind of generic. You know, your generic forest, your generic farmland, probably gonna go to a mountain region or a snowy region, And to be fair, those areas are just meant for grinding enemies and acquiring items. But the painting worlds themselves are definitely the stars of the show. They're really cool. I love the different aesthetics of them so far. As far as characters go, the characters are definitely where most of the focus is. The story definitely takes more of a backseat, and the character interactions range from incredibly wholesome to incredibly funny, and even have a couple little bits of, like, a couple serious moments here and there. More so in regards to Lydie and Suelle wondering if, they can live up to the expectations that they've placed on themselves. To Matthias questioning himself if he can one day take over the kingdom of, what is this place? The Atelier Kingdom? I think is what it's called. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Matthias, the guy that I just mentioned, he's royalty, and he's next in line to be the king of the land. They just casually drop that on you, by the way. He's your first party member that you unlock, and you're like, okay, he's just this random womanizer knight dude. And then they just drop on you, oh yeah, he's in line to be the king. And Muriel, the lady that is running the certification exam, she's the princess, by the way. They're related. And it's like, man, this really is just breaking the mold in terms of what I expect from a JRPG. Because in a JRPG, as far as one that I am used to, that would be something they would save for like a big massive reveal towards the end of the game. Oh, this silly knight guy who just goes and flirts with everybody, and he's sort of the comic relief character, reveals at the end of the game, oh, he's actually royalty to the whole land. And you're like, oh, what? I never saw that coming. But no, they just basically tell you right away. And I love the interactions between him and Sue. She just roasts the crap out of him, and it's just seeing the look of defeat on his face, and just taking any chance she can to poke at him, to jab at him. Oh, it's so fun. And like, even the other characters, like the side characters, there's Grace, the nun at the church. There's Haggle, the local blacksmith, who definitely do not mention his bald head, otherwise he gets very angry. Oh, right, yeah, there's Lucia, who is Lydie and Sue's childhood friend, who runs essentially a rival atelier, which this blew my mind. When you see Lucia's atelier, you're like, wow, and she's super, like, well-known throughout the city, and she's far more accomplished than the twins, so you think, oh, in the exam, she's going to be placed at a higher ranking. She's going to be like C or B. But no, she's F tier along with the twins. And you're like, wait, what? How does that make sense? And so seeing their rivalry throughout the game is also really fun. I can't wait to see more of the interactions between these characters. That's definitely what I'm enjoying the most. Okay, enough rambling about characters. Let's move on to the actual gameplay. Now, I said before how I didn't really know what the typical gameplay loop of an Atelier game was, or even if there was a gameplay loop, and thankfully there is. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's kind of addicting. So, you go to these new areas, you fight monsters in your traditional JRPG turn-based battles. You've got your basic attacks, your skills, you can defend, you can use items. Oh, items. Bombs are probably the main way you're going to be attacking, because skills take a lot of MP, and at least in the early game, you don't have a lot until you level up quite a bit. So, yes, bombs, very good. Bombs are very good. Use bombs all the time. And by defeating enemies, you get items. And you can also get items by going to gathering spots like rocks, crystals, plants. You can eventually fish, you can gather water. There's all kinds of different gathering spots and tools that you can use to gather all kinds of different items. Oh, and we'll get to the actual alchemy part later. That is definitely the meat of this game, is all the alchemy stuff. Lydie is more of your traditional support kind of mage. She uses a staff, but she doesn't have any, like, attack magic, at least at this point. But she can delay enemies, and if you're a Trails fan like me, you know how powerful delay can be. And she can buff your party members, attack and defense. Suelle just kinda casually is a gunslinger. She dual wields pistols, and that's awesome. She's your main attacker. She's your main DPS. But she doesn't have any AoE attacks and is mostly single target, and is actually all single target. But then Matthias, he can hit a bunch of characters either in a line or in a row, and his main duty is to buff himself and take all the aggro, and he can also protect both of the twins if they get attacked in battle, so that makes him very important as far as staying alive goes. But the gameplay loop of fighting enemies, gathering items, filling up your pouch, taking it back to your atelier, dropping it off into storage, going back out, doing it again, it's very easy to lose track of time. And I also gotta say about the gameplay, something that also shocked me was in the first dungeon, I completely expected to do a boss fight at the end. Maybe if I had made the wrong choice, I would have had a boss fight, but I did the quest, and then it was over. I left the dungeon, and I was like, wait, I was totally prepared for a boss. No boss? No? And then the chapter ended. And I was like, well, huh? Okay. Sure. Alright, breaking the mold yet again. Shattering expectations. Huzzah! Now it's time to finally move into the actual alchemy section. Oh boy, you guys were not kidding. This is probably why people say you don't want to start here. Because it's a lot. Oh, it's a lot. It's very, very complex. There's so many moving parts and things to keep in mind. So first off, all the items that you gather in the overworld and in the paintings can be used to make all kinds of different items, as far as alchemy goes, and each item is categorized in its own subcategory. Like a piece of meat will be in the food category, or a rock will be in the ore category, and different things that you make require different items in those categories. And you have all these extra parameters on the side where you have to match up. Okay, so there's... Bear with me. I'm so very new to this, so I might not explain it properly, but each item has components that you can see, and each component has a item value and a color value assigned to it. And the different items that you make can get different bonuses depending on how much of that value that you supply. Now, to be fair, you can entirely ignore this and just make the item bare bones, and that's okay. But in order to get the really good, really high quality items, this is something that you really have to become intimately familiar with, as it's the only way to unlock all kinds of extra bonuses and things that you can then carry over to other items that you make. And then there's also traits that items can drop with that can be things like slightly increasing quality, increasing the damage of items when thrown, increasing the healing capabilities of items, increasing your character's attack for weapons, increasing defense for armor, increasing just basic stats all around, and not even to mention there's different materials that can change the way the board looks, and all kinds of different other effects that can boost other values. And then recently I just unlocked, you can use specific materials to change the colors of the board to whatever you want. Oh my gosh, wow. This is probably one of the most in-depth, like, crafting systems that I have encountered in a game so far. But that's a good thing for me, because I like crafting in games. I like gathering things. I'm a big survival game nut, so gathering items and crafting stuff is kind of second nature to me. And I think with time, this honestly has the capability of being something that I really, really enjoy. As of right now, I like it, but I'm also a little overwhelmed. just with how much there is. It is definitely not beginner friendly, that's for sure. Final thoughts. As far as something that surprised me, everything seems to be fully voiced. You know, all the main story cutscenes are fully voiced, all the main story scenes are fully voiced, the side quests are all fully voiced. So that was definitely a pleasant surprise. When I did a side quest and I'm like, wow, it's voiced? Whoa, it's crazy. Depending on which twin you're controlling, even during the alchemy sessions, they have little quips and voiced lines that they say for all the different actions. I chose a heck of a game to start, as far as like the third game in a trilogy, but I don't think that's going to hinder my enjoyment that much, me not recognizing references or returning characters and their importance isn't going to be that much of a detriment. You know, this isn't something like the Trails series, where you kinda have to know of past events to fully appreciate what's going on in the story. So I think I'll be okay on that front. We'll see when I finish the game, but yeah. Now, would I say, after finally playing my very first Atelier game, with these impressions, do I consider myself a fan? As of now, I'm going to withhold judgment until the inevitable review comes out. Because, you know, things could change. Things could change in the story, I could get sick of the gameplay, the alchemy could get, I might not fully understand the alchemy, it might open even more mechanics and just be like, alright, this is just too much. Making really high quality stuff could be just a huge pain. I could get sick of the basic sort of style of the gameplay. The characters might not be as deep as I want them to be. But overall, I am very much enjoying my time with the game now. I very much appreciate the more lighthearted tone, the more slice of life aspect to the characters, and how they're just watching Lydie and Suelle almost in a sense go through a coming of age story. I feel like that's going to be the main crux of the story, is just watching them grow as characters due to, well, the events of the story and just interacting with everybody in the town and seeing them grow and mature. And at the very least, I can definitely see myself liking the game enough that I will want to check out other games in this series. Whether I loop back and go to, I think Atelier Sophie is the first game in this series. Whether I go back to Sophie, whether I go and check out the Atelier Marie remake, or one of the other first entries in the other Atelier games, or whether I wait for Atelier Yumiya. Or, oh, there's also Ryza too. Ryza was also one that I was very interested in checking out. But overall, my impressions on this game are mostly positive, and I hope they remain that way until the game's completion. With all that being said, thank you so much for joining me, and letting me ramble and go off on my thoughts on this game. This video might not be the most well put together or cohesive, but I feel like for an impressions video, it's best to just get raw thoughts and raw ideas and stuff out there rather than trying to be all prim and proper, and this isn't a full-on review, you know. So if you enjoyed this style of video, please hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. You want to keep up to date with all my future content. A very special thank you to all my current channel members and supporters over on Patreon. Anybody who wants to help support the channel, links are in the description. It would be very much appreciated. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay spicy.
All right, what's next?